There are some games you remember because they were great, and then there are games you remember because of where you were when you played them. Vice City has always been one of those games for me. The colors, the music, the cars, Tommy Vercetti, that feeling of driving around Vice City at night with the radio playing. But replaying Vice City in 2026 made me realize something. I remember the feeling of this game a lot more clearly than I remembered the game itself. And after finishing it again all these years later, I think Vice City is somehow both more dated and more special than I remembered. The first thing that surprised me was actually the city itself. Vice City feels small, not necessarily in a bad way, but coming directly from GTA 3, I expected Vice City to feel like this huge step forward. Instead, I almost felt like I learned the map immediately. You can get from one side of the city to the other pretty quickly, and once the second island opens up, there really isn't that much mystery left geographically. The weird thing is, I still liked being there more than Liberty City. Vice City just has personality everywhere. The neon lights, the beaches, the palm trees, the hotels, the mansions, the people. Even when I wasn't doing anything important, driving around still felt good. And I think that's something Vice City understood better than GTA 3. The world didn't necessarily need to be bigger. It needed to be somewhere you actually wanted to spend your time. And honestly, the driving still holds up surprisingly well. Cars feel fast, they respond well. Getting around the map doesn't take forever. And because the city is fairly compact, most missions keep moving. But once you get out of the car, that's where the age really starts showing. The shooting can be rough. Not being able to move naturally while aiming, constantly fighting the camera, and trying to line up shots during some of the bigger fights made certain missions harder than they needed to be. And of course, Tommy still can't swim. Vice City gives you an entire city surrounded by water and then basically tells you touching any of it means death. But what's interesting is none of that ruined the game for me, because Vice City improved something that was much more important. It gave GTA a real protagonist. Tommy Vercetti is probably the biggest reason this game still works. After playing GTA 3 with Claude, having a character who actually talks, gets angry, makes jokes, threatens people, and develops relationships completely changes the experience. Tommy feels like somebody, and as the story goes on, you can actually feel his position in Vice City changing. At first, he's basically trying to clean up a deal gone wrong. Then suddenly, he's taking over Diaz's mansion, buying businesses, building a crew. And people around the city are starting to recognize him. That progression is probably my favorite part of the game. The stretch around Phenom Penna 86, supply and demand, and eventually taking out Diaz was where Vice City really clicked for me. Because those missions felt different. You're shooting from vehicles, chasing boats, attacking and taking over a mansion. It felt like Rockstar was starting to understand that GTA missions could be more than driving somewhere, killing somebody, and driving back. And once Tommy takes over Diaz's place, it actually feels like you've reached a whole new level. You're not just working for everybody else anymore. You're becoming the guy everybody else works for. But this is also where Vice City creates one of its biggest problems. Buying property sounds great, and conceptually, it is great. You start owning pieces of the city, the Malibu Club, the Printworks, the film studio, Kaufman Cabs. Some of those businesses even lead to some of the most memorable missions in the game. And I definitely did not remember how weird those film studio missions were, or I would have skipped that asset. They really showed off the ass in asset. But eventually, the way the game handles money becomes frustrating. At one point, I needed around $190,000 to keep progressing, and I had basically run out of useful things to do. So off recording, I spent probably an hour or two just driving around the city collecting money from properties, waiting for them to refill their money pools, and then doing it again and again. And that's not really progression, that's waiting. And it's probably the clearest example of Vice City showing its age. The idea was ahead of its time, but the execution wasn't quite there yet. And then there was something else I didn't remember. Just how short the main story actually is. I wouldn't say it feels rushed. It just ends sooner than I expected. Lance's betrayal starts becoming pretty obvious before the game finally reveals it. And by that point, I was basically waiting for him to turn. And when he finally does, I was completely fine with killing him. Same with Sonny. The final mission isn't especially complicated, but emotionally it works because it closes everything Tommy had been building towards. This guy gets sent to Vice City to handle one drug deal, By the end, he's standing in a mansion surrounded by the empire he built, and everybody who thought they controlled him is gone. That's a pretty satisfying ending. And I think that's ultimately why Vice City still works. It isn't because every mechanic holds up. They don't. The shooting is awkward, the map feels smaller than I remembered, the property system can become a grind. Tommy dies if his shoes touches too much water. There are plenty of things San Andreas and later GTA games would go on to improve. But Vice City has something that's much harder to replace. It has identity. I started this replay expecting to look back at an old game I loved. Instead, I ended up being reminded why I love games like this in the first place. I've spent a lot of years looking forward to whatever comes next in the gaming industry. The next console, the next release, the next video game, the next GTA. But playing Vice City again made me slow down. And I realized I can still have an amazing time with a game that came out more than 20 years ago. Maybe that's why returning to Vice City meant more to me than I expected. Because eventually, these aren't just games anymore. They're places you remember. So join me one last time as we take a ride down Vice City's memory lane.